After deep diving into many of RE4's iconic characters and unsolved mysteries, let's take a step back for a second and appreciate an element that's undeservedly neglected. In relation to any additional importance beyond a simple currency mechanic, the treasures of RE4 are a fascinating subject. Whether it's a pocket watch covered in biofluid or a bird carrying a precious stone, they have since become a staple of the franchise, appearing in almost every mainline title after 2005. My favourite in the series is probably the elegant chessboard found in the castle. A close second would be the dirty spinel that's value is completely unknown because Ada is too disgusted to grab it in separate ways, which is a shame. I wish there was an option to see how much it would be worth, but there isn't. I know the merchant definitely makes a good living scamming Leon out of these, even going as far as to sell us the treasure maps because he's too lazy to grab them himself apparently. But there is one treasure in RE4 that I can only describe as disturbing, an outlier among these nice pieces of jewellery found in bird nests, on walls or inside of furniture. It's obtained in Chapter 4-2 through grave robbing a random body underneath the castle, and not just any random person, a deliberately hidden and secluded area unlike anything else in the game. Upon opening the coffin, we find the Staff of Royalty, along with their skull and a massive Las Plagas torso as a bonus. Still no dog, unfortunately, but there's reason to believe that this treasure, along with everything else, is actually way more terrifying when we dig a little deeper. The mystery surfaces when we compare the neighbouring excavation site, located very close to this area, as well as detailing the history of Las Plagas, its obvious presence here and within the castle in general that are applicable to the Salazar family and this long-lost branch of Los Illuminados, made evident by these cave paintings in Chapter 5-1. Automatically we can gather that this person is very important, that this staff is very important, because not only is it depicted in castle paintings predating the modern revival of Las Plagas, essentially before Salazar and Sadler were even born, but Sadler himself cites this as inspiration, the symbolism and overall importance of this staff, thus creating his own that we see numerous times, the King Plagas, with the eye representing the red jewel. It's obvious when we compare the two side by side. With this we know all about the staff already, but what about the skull? Judging by the location of this coffin, and because they are buried with a Plagas shell, they could have been an ancient king of the cult, someone around the time of this cave painting thousands of years ago. A quote from the wiki states that early archaeological evidence suggests that Los Illuminados have been active for thousands of years, with various cave paintings depicting human sacrifice and the Las Plagas. However, sometime during the 15th century, the first Castellan of the Salazar family, Gregorio Salazar, eventually outlawed the religion, sealing the Las Plagas in a series of caves beneath his castle. Now this mystery would have been solved right here and now if the Staff of Royalty was not here. This body would have just been a cult member, killed by the first Castellan and buried with a Plagas as a poetic and ironic punishment. But because Gregorio's staff is here, it means one of three things. Either he also buried his treasure with this body for some unknown reason, like why would he do that? This is his skull, which wouldn't make any sense because if he buried the Las Plagas bones down here, outlawed the religion entirely and wanted nothing to do with it, why would he choose this as his resting place? Or the staff isn't actually his. But who else other than the very first Castilian would have ownership of a treasure literally called the Staff of Royalty? I think it's definitely his, so my conclusion is a very disturbing one, although it makes the most sense. The 8th Castellan's Memo. For many years the Salazar family has served as the Castellans of this castle. However, not everything is bright, for my ancestry has a dark past. Long ago, there was once a religious group that had deep roots in this castle called Los Illuminados. Unjustly, however, the first Castellan of the castle took away their rights and powers. As a follower of this religion, and as the 8th Castellan, I felt that it was my duty, as well as my responsibility, to atone for that sin. This is the first Castellan's body. Salazar and Sadler relocated his staff as well as his remains to this coffin, along with the Las Plagas as atonement for taking away its rights and powers as mentioned in the letter. Very evil stuff. Again, Salazar was extremely young when all of this was taking place, and we have speculated in depth the possible influence and manipulation that Sadler had over Salazar in this time period. Theorized by the butler himself in his memo, all of this comes to light. Knowing that he was impressionable, Sadler preyed on the young Salazar when he rose to power after the death of his ancestor, the 7th Castellan, using his age and control of the native population to order the revival of Las Plagas and let it spread amongst them. Sadler is solely responsible for these crimes. Salazar was always the small-time subordinate, no different from the others really.
I hate to break it out to you, but Salazar's dead.
Yes, it seems that way.
Sadler, why don't you give up and let Ashley go home?
Perhaps you are disillusioned with overconfidence, just because you killed my small-time subordinate. So, it seems you killed Krauser too. How shall I return my appreciation?
What are you talking about? I thought he was with you.
What are you talking about? Did you really think I'd trust an American? To tell you the truth, I was contemplating how to get rid of him. But thanks to you, that's no longer necessary.
You were just using him right from the start.
The harsh punishment sustained by this poor man in death is similar to the treatment of the betrayers at Mendez's Enlightenment cabin, these monks in the well, this woman, this man in the cage. This is what happens to those who disrespect Las Plagas in the eyes of Sadler. Just to make this 100% conclusive, later on in the same letter, Salazar hints at Sadler's influence over him, and that he did in fact bury Gregorio's body. The reason why I released the Las Plagas from deep under the castle and gave them to Lord Sadler was not only to repay for the sins of my ancestors, but I felt concern that the Lord would make better use of this power to help save the world. Again, more manipulation tactics, more implications of punishing his ancestors, specifically the 1st Castellan. I don't need to bring up the same points for the last sentence, but it's the exact same terminology, undoubtedly proving that this body, the Plagas, and the staff all circle back to Gregorio. Another item that further validates this is the Salazar family crown. Using all of the information brought forth so far, this actually confirms my theory in a previous video, that the monk who found the crown didn't actually steal it, but that Salazar already threw it down here because he hated his ancestry. The monk just so happened to find it in the water and was clinging onto it as he died slowly after surviving the initial fall. Both of these treasures have been disgraced by Ramon. One of them, the 1st Castellan staff, resting by the original owner's skull and the very thing that he hated the most. The other one, decaying in a disgusting pool of stagnant water beside multiple dead monks, representing the cleansing of the Salazar family's supposed sins and the expulsion of their history. It's no coincidence that these are the only 2 treasures relating to the royal family and have been deliberately humiliated. Thankfully, karma strikes in the remake and we are rewarded for doing the same to him. The mystery is solved, but there's still one more thing. Is Las Plagas more than just an ordinary parasite, or is it something different? When I compare this model to similar ones, it actually looks bigger. Of course, this could just be my brain making shit up. Regardless, I like to believe that this parasite was the original Las Plagas, the real King Plagas, and that this coffin was originally used to seal it in isolation, before Salazar ordered his ancestor's skull and staff to share the same grave. This would explain why it's so secluded compared to the other burial sites and coffins that we find later. Overall, the Staff of Royalty is one of my favourite treasures in RE4, and the eeriness of this part of the game, especially this coffin, has always sparked these questions in my head. I'm glad that I got to share my opinion and close the book on another lost soul in RE4's universe, to give this person the respect that he deserves. Also, the coffin is cracked at the top. Did someone try and break into it?